Marine Department report. Sheila's off fine. Natural Resources report, Tara Riley, please.
You
You go.
I have a very short report. We're basically working on a few projects, mostly closing out our summer research. So we just finished today our mushroom buoy experiment project write-up. And also our larval hatchery health diagnostic lab write-up as well. We're still working on getting the ponds open. I think we have 2 prospective people interested in possibly.
I think we have it narrowed down.
Okay. And really, and then we're working on everything for next season. So I think a lot of like what we're talking about doing is with a lot of the nonprofits and doing a lot of collaborations, which we're excited about. We turned in our eelgrass grant last Friday. And hopefully we'll hear in the next week or 2 whether that's accepted or not, but it's a pretty ambitious timeline to get it done this winter and to roll it out by July 1st of next year. So hopefully that'll happen and I'll keep you updated on that. I don't really have a super accurate bushel count, but for this month, it looks like the trajectory of it will be around 1,500 bushels unless we're missing a ton of it. So it's in line with pretty much what was last season for this month so far.
Sure, next question.
Jim, please.
Is the opening ponds, is that a yearly contract to, a contractor? So every year it has to be different?
We have a new one that's gonna be for 3 years that hasn't
Okay.
been.
So this was kind of the delay this year, is we put it out to bid for a 3-year contract.
Oh, I see.
No one responded. So that left us in a bit of a scramble. So we started soliciting around for one for the fall. I think we're gonna try to, after this round of openings, rebid it as like a 1-year contract.
Spring and fall kind of deal.
Spring and fall, just to try to get someone secured for that time, but we had a lot of people before we put it out to bid say, we're interested, put it out to bid, let them
It's too
know,
busy.
and then no one responded, so.
Okay.
We'll get there. One exciting piece of news, I don't know if it's made it to you guys, we do have someone that's going to be doing some research on the Sacagawea opening. Faith Brooks, she's working through one of the Sea Grant programs, and we do some modeling on the opening, kind of recording it to see if there are ways we may be able to better either improve the opening or look at the conditions a little differently to have it more favorable for Sacagawea Pond in particular. And then kind of correlate that to water levels. I know it's her intent that once she finishes up, to send a full report and then be available for a couple spots to give like a little presentation on what she did, but looks really interesting, and she's connected to the Department of the Navy, so she's got lots of fun toys to try to use in modeling and lots of.
Do we still have a finite window as to when we can open and close it?
So we have an extension this year for the fall for the Sacagawea
Brings the
Pond.
issue because of the burn.
For the spring, we're working on kind of a 10-year permit with the Corps for both. Permit doesn't need it, but for Sacagawea Pond, where we're trying to look at it to gain some flexibility to like approach the pond from the north and south, so from the Green Hill end or from the Audubon end, so we can avoid any sort of bird entanglements to try to gain some flexibility time-wise that way, so we can try to line up better with the herring run instead of being like, well, it's April 30th, we gotta open the pond or else the permit's over, so we can have a little bit, or March 30th, a little bit more flexibility. And the course seems amenable to that with some things in place, but we're trying to work.
I would say as far as Sacagawea, I'd say the biggest issue there would be the moon, Bob, right, with the tide running
Like,
across.
if you could open the pond this last week with this big moon, it would really flushed.
Yeah.
It's too bad we couldn't somehow got it done. We need Steve back with the shovel, because it was high tides, yeah, he probably could have done it in one night.
He's on the Cape. I had to him a couple years ago.
Maybe he'll sign the contract.
So maybe. I was pretty surprised that with all of the folks out here that run machines, that no one took up on the
I wonder if they
program.
just don't wanna put them in the salt water.
That's what a lot of them say, so. but
All right.
we'll find somebody,
Mm-hmm.
or there's an entrepreneurial chance for somebody who wants to dig big holes.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Dave.
yeah, I just want to also note that Hummock Pond doesn't have the same or any date restrictions. So when we got that permit from the Corps, the director of the Corps said, you will never see another permit like this. You need to make sure you frame this multiple copies. But hopefully they'll give him some flexibility, the same as he has for Hummock Pond in the future. But Sackage is tough because it has a specific window to open in.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Peter.
so we had Vince Murphy in here. Trying to get from us what we thought were the places should be dredged in addition to the obvious ones. You know, because Sackage is a big round thing. And you're essentially trying to force this, it's like, I'm guessing it's like putting a straw in an orange and trying to squeeze all that juice out and have it come out the straw, whereas Hummock Pond is a chute and you get the north wind and the falling tide and it just comes right out. Maybe we could get Sackage dredged and have a channel that existed. So when the water went out, it really went out. And then the guy in the operating the excavator wouldn't have to work so hard to widen it or dig or whatever. The water would be flowing downhill. I mean, I know there's habitat considerations, but
Out of curiosity, Jeff, with the study that you mentioned that'll be taking place, will sediment movement and where possibly which direction it goes in, will that be part of the study?
I know they're tracking tidal direction and tidal flow and what's happening, and then they'll have their drone up quite a bit to model, so you should be able to see. I think it's kind of their intent to detail what is happening in totality. I can get a better answer to that from the researcher and email it around, but we'll get that for sure. But I know they're looking at flow in and out, flow velocities, what's happening when it gets to the ocean, flow directions, tidal directions, wind impacts to that. So I know they're kind of looking pretty comprehensively at the whole thing.
And the wives' tale is all we could really call it, I think, was in years past when it was opened by shovel. When that channel widened and widened, all of that sand ended up going out with the water. And people felt that it created some shoaling and helped with erosion. And I've always been curious about that, and I've also been curious in watching more recent openings using the excavator and seeing a large swath being cut and the sand put to the side. And I've always meant to ask you this, is that sand put to the side like that in an attempt to save it versus it going out with the water? And versus simply making a narrower trench and allowing that trench to create its own size through the process?
Typically, we hope that all that sand, it makes that beach heal much easier to do instead of having those. So we hope that it opens up wide enough where any of the mounding on the sides from excavation enters into that littoral system. I'm not trying to save or stockpile it. Sometimes
All right.
Sometimes it does. We just kind of let it open and get to a good width and a depth where you kind of connect to just the top of that water table there. Let it flow out. Let the trench do what the trench does. And let the
All right.
water move the sand where it wants to go.
Oh, good.
It'll do a better job than we try
I
to
know you
A
might.
lot of it's got to do with wind.
Yeah,
wind and tides.
yeah,
You get a hard northerly, it shuts that pond pretty quick.
yeah. Any more questions for natural resources report or pond opening specifically or? Seeing any questions from the public? On natural resources report? All right, Old business, draft letter to select board requesting participation in SHAB related matters. And our idea of the possible appointment of one of our members, to be in on closed door discussions. When did we talk about that? On 10/22? I happened to attend the 10/23 select board meeting. And was compelled to inform during public comment that this was our interest. And I'll apologize to the board for not waiting for our letter to be created. But honestly, I don't believe there'd be any difference in the outcome of the request. The select board referred to town council, who was in attendance at that meeting. And they said that it would be unusual for a member of another board to attend select board executive session meetings. The subject matter permitted under open meeting law to be discussed in executive session falls within the authority of the select board alone. The board appreciates any input that SHAB has on matters under their purview and relates to matters on a select board executive session agenda. And the chair and vice chair welcome that input prior to the select board scheduled executive session meeting. So, you know, Mr. Brace continued to work on the letter, I believe, and just add in the revisions that we created. But I'll leave it up to the board whether we continue with that or not. Probably kind of a moot point at this point. Mr. Bossy.
And the select board pretty specifically said that it was on advice of council, they were turning it down, so.
Yeah,
I think it'd be kind of embarrassing to go ahead and submit it again, basically, so I think we just drop it. At this point, asked and answered.
Scott,
I would just have preferred that we got the letter out before you approached them, because
Yeah.
it would have been 7 of us versus you, so. There would have been a little more clout behind it, so
Yeah.
that's my only concern as we move forward.
I agree, Scott, and I apologize for that.
Because it's really a negotiation, so.
Yeah,
I still
If
think
we
we
had
should
our
send
eggs
it.
together a little bit better.
I still like to send it. I want it on the record that we offered our expertise and were refused.
Well, it is on the record, the select board's record, it was
I
asked and
know.
answered in the select.
But a letter from this board signed by all the members or from the chairman that states we voted 7-0 unanimously, then it just, I don't know,
To show point,
yeah, I mean, we are an elected board. We might be an advisory board, but we are an elected board. The voters picked us to be here because of the expertise that we had in these matters and nothing against the selectmen, but they don't have any waterfront expertise there, so I think that they should have someone there. They got 2 lawyers that they hired out of Washington. They're supposedly wind farm experts, but they're not doing anything for the waterfront. I mean, there's not a dime of mitigation for anything related to that cable going through our waters off of the Skegit or any of this stuff, so.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Franzuto, please.
Yeah, I agree with Bob, number one, but number two, I thought that we had agreed that we wanted to be involved in all discussions. I don't particularly care about executive session. I just wanted to be involved in the discussion, any discussions. I mean, they have meetings about this that are not executive session. They have discussions. They have they bring attorneys in, but as Bob points out, we're the experts in this particular situation on the waterfront and in the harbor and the water surrounding Nantucket. And if they deny the fact that we can be involved in an executive session, I don't really care. I want a seat at the table to have our expertise brought forward during these future discussions.
Wow, Dave, I appreciate that, and Mr. DeCosta as well, and I don't know when the rest of you heard about tonight's meeting that's taking place exactly at the same time as this meeting. It's a public forum, select board is holding to solicit input from the public about offshore wind, specifically South Coast wind, a newer development. And, I was taken aback because, I got that notice simply by reading Nantucket Current. We were not notified. I was not notified. If any of you board members were notified specifically, please, say so now so that I'm, maybe my email was outdated, but, were
But
any of?
Mr. Chairman,
board
that's,
members,
that's a
please?
perfect example of what I'm talking about. You
Yes.
or a representative from this board should be at that meeting representing SHAB.
Thank you, Mr. Franzuto. So, this would require, modifying the letter a little bit, eliminating, executive session, since we know the answer to that. But as you've stated, Mr. Franzuto, there are, meetings as the one that's taking place right now. And, it really, honestly, it disturbed me that they would make, schedule the meeting the same time as ours. Considering they know we have been discussing this, not only have I been to a select board meeting, and mentioned it, concerning this letter, but Mr. DeCosta also, has been to a select board meeting mentioning that we are
Mr. Chairman, I
discussing this
think-
at SHAB.
If you took this letter and you just, took out, all executive session and other, and just had, we would like to attend all discussions concerning existing and future wind turbine projects. That would take care of the executive session part of this problem, and we'd still be able to send them a letter saying that. I don't know, who knows what's gonna be the future of wind turbines, but there is the potential for 1,400 of these things to be built around the island, and I think we should. If that's the case, South Wind is just gonna be the tip of the iceberg as to other projects coming in front of this board, so we could take out the executive session part and still send the letter, and at least it lets them know that we want to have a seat at the table when they start talking about these things.
Then I would also remove the last sentence, just if we need be about the non-disclosure agreement, just take that sentence out.
Take that out as well.
And then that would,
I think it's short and sweet.
We'll see if they actually feel anything about it, but at least they're on notice that we want a dog in the fight.
Mr. Bossy,
That works for me, yeah.
I agree.
any more discussion on the letter? Would you like to take a vote on?
Well, I mean,
Mr. Brady?
Wouldn't we want to specify that I mean, of course, if they're gonna have a discussion, it's gonna be in public, then of course we're allowed to attend, but it'd be great if they would actually give us a heads up so we know. So we'd want to somehow specify that in the letter. So would this board trust me to wordsmith that?
I would.
Reasonable notice.
Well,
Yeah.
honestly, in lieu of what's coming up in new business, I think you could use some of Mr. Carlson's wording as far as, having proper, information ahead of time, so that we could all be prepared, entering that meeting as well.
Okay,
Right.
Thank you for that.
Feel free, you can copy and paste from any of us at any time.
I'm gonna remember.
Not your signature, right?
Sorry,
No,
Peter.
not my
that's
signature,
okay.
but anything that else is in there. Just here to keep all our noses clean.
I'll make that
Okay.
motion to send the letter as modified by Peter.
I'll second that.
All right, motion's made by Mr. Franzuto, seconded by Mr. Anderson to modify our letter to the select board, for us to be notified and be able to participate in, any matters related to offshore wind discussion, shy of executive session meetings. Any more discussion on this motion? All in favor of the motion? Mr. Brace,
Aye.
Mr. Franzuto,
Aye.
Mr. Anderson,
Aye.
Mr. Sherlin.
Aye.
Mr. Bossy.
Aye.
Mr. DeCosta.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, unanimous decision. Advisory to select board on vineyard wind and wind turbines in general. And we've had this on our agenda for quite some time. Our focus has been on the previous topic. And I've asked the board, but I'm guilty myself not coming in with anything rough draft. We've talked about it. It's probably in minutes. Honestly, my feelings would be that in lieu of the blade, the damaged blade from July, I think it's fairly obvious that mitigation is very difficult, if not impossible. But certainly, debris that can be found by eye can certainly be picked up. But can the entire waters surrounding us be scanned, and for how long? Allegedly, I'm hearing pieces are still being picked up. I believe personally that there are also negative effects that have not been studied 100%. I think some of this is really an experiment in a way. And, if we had some data on maybe, when the power cable from the mainland was plowed in from there to here, if we had data on how silt moves and booms of silt moving underwater, it would be neat to have some data on that. So I do agree that our purview here is limited, but there is a portion of this that falls under our purview. And I'm not fond of comparing this to, well, this could be something else. It's not something else. It is what it is. So I don't want to compare to oil platforms and a 25-year-old fiberglass wreck that's been in the harbor. This discussion needs to be specific to what falls under our jurisdiction at SHAB. So in lieu of them having this meeting at the same time we're having this meeting right now, we did not have a letter prepared to submit to them. In a way, it would have been nice to at least have a letter that they could read out loud at their meeting, but none of us are there to represent that letter in person, which I believe holds a little more powerful voice. I'd just like to hear from the board how the rest of the board feels about jotting down our concerns, creating a letter of recommendation on not just Vineyard Wind, but all wind projects in relation to future construction, that we should be listing our specific concerns. Bob, or go ahead, Scott.
I think we need to put something in writing. To me, it's not just a wind project. This is a major construction project that's just in multiple phases going up and down. So again, the pollution, I'll say the radiation coming off of cables, things we haven't even thought about are gonna come into play. So I think we need to get something out, but maybe do periodic updates of things we discuss so that we get it in front of the select board.
Well, and you also mentioned at a previous meeting, Scott, we were talking specifically about the good neighbor agreement, and we all read it. And you had a frank description of that as being one of the most poorly written agreements that
One-sided
and
agreements.
yeah, and and I want to add to, because we also hear this a lot, that we're not gonna stop this project. Well, we're not here trying to stop that project, at least that's not my intent. I don't think we can stop it either, but we can at least have a voice. And I think the voice is important. And if the good neighbor agreement is stifling a voice, then I don't think that's a good agreement at all. And honestly, what we got out of the good neighbor agreement, it doesn't seem to be a whole lot. But here again, some of that's beyond our purview. Whether they paint them gray or white doesn't make a difference to me. But honestly, probably that paint's gonna peel faster than the original paint that's on it. So, but anyhow, any more discussion from the board?
Well, the one area that we do have some jurisdiction over is the waters within 3 miles of Nantucket. And the first cable did go through our waters. And they were supposed to video the bottom before the cable went through, and then go back and video the bottom afterwards. And somewhere along the line, I don't know who, whether it was the state or the feds, probably the state, waived the requirement to video the bottom afterwards. There wasn't a dime given to Nantucket for bottom mitigation, and that's just wrong. Dave will remember this when Wisconsin Beach Preservation Trust wanted to shoot sand in on the beach at the bluff. There was a 2-for-1 mitigation plan in place. So for every foot of bottom that they covered with sand, there was 2 foot of bottom habitat that they had to build. Now that cable went through at least 1.5 miles of our waters off of Muskegon. They plowed that plow through there on that big ship and buried that cable. We didn't get a dime of mitigation. A lot of that bottom in there is good hard bottom. When I
It's
say hard
hard
bottom,
bottoms.
it's mussel beds, it's cobble. We don't know what
Because
they're
of the current.
there because there was no video done before or after. And that's, we're not gonna get anything from this last cable, but there's as many as 7 different cables that come through here, and they have said numerous times that they wanna come on that side of the channel because it's softer bottom. They don't wanna go down through Muskegon, and the vineyard just told them they can't go through their waters. So this is the one area that I think the town has some pull on, and we need to make sure that any future projects that wanna go through our waters, that we have some serious say in it. It never went in front of the Concom, to my knowledge. This should have been in front of the Concom. Anything inside of 3 miles is considered their jurisdiction, isn't it?
Jeff can answer that.
So it did. Oh, man, the Vineyard Wind one came in front of the Concom. I think pre-COVID originally. That's where the original video requirement came from, and I will 100% confirm that it was the state that.
That said, no, they don't have to do the after. Yeah. So, we're getting railroaded here by the state, and
Wait a minute, Bob. So Jeff, to confirm what you're saying, the local conservation commission requested videoing and the state overruled that request? Is that what I just heard?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
so, in future projects, we need to be more forceful, and if it means we have to take them to court to make sure that this stuff gets taken care of, then we should do that, because this is the one area where we do have some flooding.
May I ask, Jeff, has there been any discussion of recent of offshore wind at Conservation Commission that you're able to reveal that was public discussion?
Oh, I mean, we don't have executive sessions very often, so everything was public, so. It's come up a few times. I know that the commission used to have someone as part of the offshore wind work group that has kind of since disbanded. It comes up from time to time. I know the last proposal, the draft, the cable wasn't originally shown coming through Nantucket waters. I think from the first permit, right, if someone applied today to come through that same spot that Vineyard Wind did, I think it would get viewed a lot differently than the first time. The first time, having sat through the meetings, of course, everything was, wine and roses and everything's gonna be great, and here's all of the state support, here's all of the federal support, and it was the tenor of that conversation was very much different than what I think it would be today. There's been a lot of
Yeah,
lessons learned.
I think the south wind cables go into Falmouth into Block Island or into Point Judith or somewhere in Rhode Island. They don't come this way, but that doesn't mean that, you know, there's 4 more sections of this first project that was included in Vineyard Wind in the Good Neighbor Agreement, and I don't know if all 4 of those are gonna go through the existing cable that's there, or they're gonna have to lay another cable. I mean, at one point, the plans that I saw, if this is a complete build out, there's 7 different cables, and there's one that actually goes around the east side of the island all the way to Boston Harbor and cuts across our shoals, which is really concerning to me because those shoals they've been there for thousands of years.
Yeah.
Soon, thousands of years, and those are our storm protectors, and they start plowing cables through those, what the hell's it gonna do to those shoals? We're
That's
talking
why
about.
you
the
have
Old
a South
Man,
Shore right
We're talking about the Old Man, the Rosencrown, the Blairs, all those shoals, and it
Oh,
goes
my
right
God.
east side of the Cape, all the way up into Boston Harbor. Um, It's concerning.
Mr. Fonzuto, did you have a comment?
No, I was just saying, what I mumbled was, it's the reason you have a South Shore is those shoals.
Can I add one more thing to that?
Yes, please do, Jeff.
I think too, in the first permitting. A lot of thought was put into putting those conditions in for video monitoring and those things, and when that permit was issued, all of those things were. In place, and then. Later, somehow, some way, when we went to enforce some of those conditions. They were granted relief at a higher level than
Correct.
we.
Yeah, I don't blame the
Kinda got
town. It was the
yeah.
state that said, no, you don't have to do any of this.
We kind of got hamstrung and lost. Any support from those who grant us regulatory authority as it is, so. We kind of got stuck.
So,
That'd be beautiful.
I, is it safe to assume the pleasure of the board would be to move forward with a letter of advisory to the select board on future projects, current projects, how SHAB, what SHAB sees, and as far as the health of our waters and our concerns. I would think it would be a wise decision for us. I'm not seeing this type of advisory or recommendation coming from any other boards. As it goes along, things change, obviously, and we're finding out more as it goes along than we knew from the beginning, so, when I watched the select board discuss this matter, in relation to our last topic, being in participation of their discussions, it seems as though, the support would be helpful. So I'd like to see us move forward with drafting a letter of advisory to the select board on this.
Why make that motion? I mean, that's what we do. We've advised on other things by letters, and I think we should follow through on this one.
Okay, so, and we'll come back to our next meeting with some drafts for Peter to work on. Is there a second on Mr. Bossy's motion?
I'll second that.
Motion's made by Mr. Bossy, seconded by Mr. Anderson.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr.
so
Brace.
what do you mean by drafts? Drafts of ideas that we all want in a letter, or everyone's gonna write their own letter and I'm gonna distill it, or?
I think we should just send you like just the bullet points of our concerns, like in my case, it would be, jurisdiction of waters that
Okay.
Nantucket. And then anybody else can send what their concerns are, and then you can draft a
Good.
letter with those
Okay.
points in it.
Sure.
Does that make sense to everyone?
It does.
The
The rest of the board. Send it directly to Peter before the next meeting. Peter, when would you like to have that by so that you can work on that draft?
For. By the end of the weekend, because I'll have 2 weeks
by the end of which weekend?
This
Our
week.
next meeting is December 3rd.
By the end of this week. I think we
Maybe
may-
we got 2 weeks,
Yeah.
so, by Sunday is fine. Yeah, because then I
Nice.
can just start, I can start now, and then the meat of the letter can be what you guys all send me, plus my own thoughts.
Uh, Motion was made by Mr. Bossy, seconded by Mr. Anderson. That we will be drafting a letter to advise the select board on Vineyard Wind and other wind turbine projects. Any more discussion on that motion? All in favor, Mr. Anderson,
Aye.
Mr. Sherlin?
Aye.
Mr. Bossy?
Aye.
Mr. DeCosta?
Aye.
Mr. Grace?
All right,
Mr. Franzuto?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you. New business, commercial base scalloping, bushel limits. I'll open up by saying, that we've been informed that, we need to be more specific with our agenda description. It's possible that, other people involved with this may not be, in the public may not understand, what this discussion is about without a better description. But it is on our agenda, in general, so that we can talk about it tonight. And, we have, Jeff and Tara with us tonight, so, we can certainly, wade through this and, come out, the other side as best as we can. We'll see what we can accomplish here tonight. Mr. Sherlin asked me to put this on the agenda. But we have discussed it in the past through the modifications to shellfish regulations. We've talked about it in past meetings, just in light, so to speak, with Tara. We talked about changing something in the regulations. Mr. DeCosta had a lot of input with this to make it easier in the future to adjust bushel limits. And obviously, the changes have not gone before the select board yet. So I guess it's not gonna be as easy as we'd hope right now. I could be corrected on that. So basically, as far as bushel limits go, in our pre-discussions on this, a lot of it had to do with, of course, how much is out in the harbor. How many people are fishing, the market for them, the market demand for the scallops. So, we'll open this up. Not sure if, Jeff, you want to begin, or if we want to start with a board member.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
Can I ask-
Fonzero, please.
could I ask a quick question?
Yes,
The change to the regulation didn't get adopted by the Board of Selectmen?
No, it did.
No, it didn't.
oh. Okay, all right,
Did.
sorry about that, so.
So what,
Can I stand to be corrected on, that's fine.
what's the issue? Is now the issue, we've got to determine if we want to ask them to change the limit? I mean, I'm sorry, I've not been as involved as I could or should have been, but due to other reasons, but are we at the point where we're gonna make a recommendation for a bushel change or leave it the same? Is that where we're at right now?
Well, Dave, there is discussion among the fishermen about it, for the past week and a half. They seem to feel there are a lot out there. Demand is healthy right now. And honestly, in discussions in the past, with both, senior and junior, Sherlins here, they had always seemed to suggest that we wait until after January to do this type of, change. But, I believe both of them are even in favor of increasing the limit by one box. With the demand, not only because of demand, but, because of the season. And that the demand, for Thanksgiving and Christmas, is probably the highest demand of the entire season. And that comes and goes pretty quickly.
Well,
So
okay, well,
the
that's
other
fine.
factor,
I think with
Dave,
with the input from the fishermen and the Natural Resources Department saying that they would agree or disagree with an increase. I mean, unfortunately, I'm in North Carolina and I can't get any bay scallops. But I
What's
mean,
your address?
unless I want to pay $70 a pound,
I would do it cheaper than that.
I'd rather shoot myself. But anyway,
all
the
right,
point
well,
is,
Dave, another factor of, and let me tell you, another factor of this is, the yield, I guess. The yield is kind of low this year.
right,
And
another reason to
there's,
raise the box limit.
and another factor, since we have the Shellfish warden on board with us tonight, is there have been some issues with some fishermen. I'm not sure of all fishermen. I'm only going by what I hear on the street. That, and we've heard this every year. And, with all due respect to the Shellfish warden, I can understand where he stands on this. Some fishermen are taking advantage of the heaping. And, I can remember JC saying in the past, when I see a box being transferred from boat to dock and they're falling off the dock, or falling off of the box, I can understand that box is probably heaped a little more than the Shellfish warden would like to see. I'd like to think that the Shellfish warden on a moderately, heaped box, turns the other cheek. And it's really up to his discretion, and I think everybody understands that. He does have the discretion to run a stick over the box and, enforce everyone to bring in a flattened level box. If that were the case, I think we're cutting the yield down to under 6 pounds per box. And, adding the box, would make sense. Especially if the stick is gonna come out, in enforcement.
I'm more than happy to have this discussion about raising the limit. I just wanted to make sure that I understood where we were at. And yeah, I mean, I did that for 24 years, so I know all about mounted boxes. But anyway, let's have that discussion now. Then I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to
Dave,
make
did
sure
you
we
get,
were in the right.
Dave, did you get emails from Mr. Carlson?
I did.
Or did
He's
you read them?
awful long-winded.
I learned from the best.
Yeah.
All right,
You certainly did.
all right. And, if I need to read that into the minutes, I will. I'd prefer not to have to. I think I've explained it in short and can
No one
explain
wants
it
to.
again in short, or Mr. Carlson can at some point. But, Jim, did you have?
With the current adoption of the select boards or our change, can we just go over what it actually takes to raise the limit so that everyone understands that? Or maybe you can explain that.
That's a good question.
Definitely, he's the rule
So,
follower.
And again, just kind of get it ready for today. I apologize for the super long email to everybody. Right, and my intent is not to always, I always feel like I'm the wet blanket or the buzzkill for all of these things. It's really just to make sure that people that are involved have an opportunity to be involved. And know what we're talking about and to have important discussions and do it in a way that's efficient and open to folks, and I could say that even just today, I know JC and I spoke about it a couple of times. We had some calls at the office that for this item and the next item, there's a lot of like rumor mill for what's running around for what's being proposed. So I think in my mind's eye, for what gets proposed, for something like a bushel change, something gets sent to the board for what the change is being proposed to be and the purpose of or the reason. It sounds like we'll probably do that a bit orally. It gives us a chance at a staff level to review and look at it from a, you know, fishery and biology standpoint. I'll be totally honest. What people are getting paid and yields are not stuff that we typically look at. We come to consensus as SHAB and natural resources, and then that recommendation goes to the select board. The select board says yay or nay, and then sets a date that goes effective. I think it would be our hopes at our level and in full disclosure, you know, we do take a lot of contact information in to try to get information out as quickly as we can. That if that decision was made by a select board on a Wednesday, that, you know, I think we would prefer to see it take effect. Not the next day, but probably the start of the next fishing week, just so everyone knows and has time to prepare. And if guys need an extra box, they can get an extra box, whatever needs to happen. Just because I think a turnaround of a Wednesday night approval at 6 or 7 PM for guys to start fishing at 6 AM the next day, there's gonna be a lot of guys that just don't know. And I think the last thing we want to see is someone pull up to the dock, offload 6 boxes, the guy pulling next to him, offload 5 boxes. And say, why is he at 6? And I only have 5, right? And
48
that's,
hours.
I think 40 hours is open meeting law requirements.
Right,
for
so if you
posting.
went to the following Monday, I totally agree with you.
Yeah, it's just a matter to get enough time, to get the word out, so everyone's kind of on that level.
Bob,
So just a little background, Jeff. We talked about this at our last meeting on the 5th.
yes,
We said at that point in time that we didn't feel like we were ready to for a short answer, pull the trigger on this because we didn't have enough data. But the yield is down, but there's plenty of product. And as far as the buyers go, we have 2 local buyers, and I don't know what they're doing, because I would say probably 75% of the fleet right now is shipping their scallops off island. They've had enough of these guys stealing from us, for lack of a better term, or whatever you want to call it, just driving the price down. And,
actually refusing is from.
well, that's
from
the
what I-
thing. So here's my concern. I'm shipping my scallops off island. My son is shipping his scallops off island. Jimmy, you're shipping some of your scallops off island. I'd say the majority of the fleet. Do you sell yours here? Do you-
I still sell mine to
Yeah, so some guys. Right now, the demand is high for scallops. The guy that I ship my scallops to has said, I can take double what you're sending me right now. But come January 1st, he's gonna say the same thing he said the last 2 years. Now the demand's way down. I don't need them. And if I go to Teddy and try to sell scallops to Teddy on January 2nd, he's gonna say, you haven't been selling to me all year. I don't want your scallops. You've got 2 buyers now. Linden's is not buying scallops after January 1. You have 2 buyers. And they're basically holding us all hostage, saying if we don't sell to them from day 1, they're not gonna buy our scallops after January 1. I went and threw test dredges around the harbor the other day for 3 hours. Everywhere I went, I got at least a 15 count of the test dredge. In some places, I got 60 counts with the test dredges. They're all beautiful, healthy adults. If we don't catch these scallops, or the majority of these scallops in the next 2 months, come January 1st, you're gonna be down to 5 or 6 boats, and we're not gonna catch these scallops. Because we're not gonna have a market to move them. Now, I thought that we made this change so that we could do this in a relatively short period of time. The issue is the selectmen meet tomorrow night, and then they don't meet next week. Because of the holiday. Now, I talked to Erica yesterday, and she said that if Shab approved this tonight, that they could, that the chairman of the Board of Selectmen has the ability, and I remember this when I was chair, to put it on as a time-sensitive issue. So it could go on their agenda tomorrow night, and then if they voted it through, it could go into play for next Monday, which would be the week before Thanksgiving, which is a big week for selling scallops. We're averaging about 30 pounds a limit right now. If we went to 6 boxes, we'd average probably 35, 36 pounds. 5 years ago, we were averaging 40 pounds. And that's just the reality. The scallops, the shells are still big, the eyes just aren't as big. I don't know if it's because the water's not as cold or what the deal is, but they're nice, healthy scallops. They're just not, we're not getting the giant meats out of them that we used to get out of them. As Carl said to me, if you go to 6 boxes and you don't want to get 6 boxes because your openers don't want to open them or you don't want to open them, you don't have to get 6 boxes. But there's a lot of guys that would like to get that extra 6 box. That's just my 2 cents. If we don't do this, if we don't vote it through tonight, we don't go to the selectmen with a time sensitive issue tomorrow, then the earliest this is gonna happen would be what, 10th?
The third, fourth, I think are the
No.
first Tuesdays.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Dave.
Bob, I know that you and Carl, Jim, and you guys that are fishing, I mean, I'm just throwing this out there for discussion is 6 boxes enough, or should we go to 7 and then drop it back after the first of the year? Is 6 enough to catch them all and make a living?
I think 6 is enough, Dave. I don't want to get so many on the market that the price drops.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure the local buyers are gonna possibly use this as an excuse to drop the price, but. I mean, everyone I know that shipping's getting a substantially amount more than what the local buyers are selling, paying the fishermen, so. I don't wanna have to shoot my scallops, but. I don't have a choice.
All right, I just wanted to make sure you thought was 6 is enough, and just so everybody was worried, I bought a turkey today, so.
You wanna stuff it with scallops? I'll send you some.
Carl, I'm gonna keep it to the board first. So please hold your thought, Carl,
Yeah.
because we wanna know. Mr. Carlson, in your email, you did mention giving the buyers or wholesalers a chance to be here. And anybody else that is connected to the industry that may want to have something to say. And I certainly understand that and agree with it. But as you also mentioned, the market demand and the yield and the economics of it is not a priority of yours, or possibly not even within the purview. And I think we've been led to believe that's the same for this board. And honestly, my concern would be with only knowing of how many boats are out there, 15?
No, maybe 20.
20 boats, and my memory keeps going back to 76. 6-bag limit per man, 12 bags coming in per boat, 140 pounds per day being caught. Guys waiting in a big long line to sell their scallops for $5 a pound at some shanty down on Old Salt Wharf. But my concern today is we don't have 150 boats in the harbor. We've got 20. And we don't have 250 guys fishing. We've got 30. Economics aside, we know the economic issues are there. Our concern here is the survival of the fishery at this point. And if the few fishermen that are left, aside from aging out, get discouraged from fishing at all, then what do we have?
No, we have to protect our fishermen.
And that's why we're here prioritizing this tonight.
Right.
And doing our best to fast track this, because it's a very short window. And as has already been stated, after January 1st, who knows what the market is, and if there's no market for them, then I don't think we're gonna see scallopers going out and harvesting scallops just to sit and rot someplace. And they're not gonna do it and start handing them out door to door to free to friends for very long either. They're gonna come back to land and work on land. And the fishery is gonna suffer for it. So,
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Franzuto?
Can, since we've heard what the yield and from the fishermen, is natural resources, God, I've gotten tactful in my old age. Is natural resources ready to support a decision tonight for consideration tomorrow by the selectmen?
I'll allow that question to go right through to you guys.
I mean, the fishery can sustain an increase. I think, like, I defer to Jeff because of logistics. I just want to make sure that it works on everyone's end.
Right.
I mean, I apologize for being glib earlier to Jeff, but I mean, I appreciated his email. And I appreciated the fact that, he's got us, contained, so we don't get afoul of any procedure. So I appreciate that, but I just think we ought to make a recommendation now and vote on it to increase the limit to 6 boxes.
If that's a motion, I'd second it. I'd just like to discuss the mechanics of getting that into the priority for tomorrow. How do we do that?
I can shed a little light on that.
But
First, I understand your concern, Jeff, about the 48-hour notice, the public meeting notice, but it is on our agenda and it was posted. So technically, this is an open meeting and this is a board that discusses this. So technically, if push came to shove, this would clear.
And again, my intent is just to try to make sure that
No,
we all keep our noses
I
clean and
get
someone
that.
doesn't come back in
And
2 weeks.
if we did vote this through and we wanted to try to get it on the agenda for tomorrow night. I took it upon myself to go see Erica yesterday because I remembered this from when I was on the board and I was the chairman. It's that the chairman has the discretion to put something on the agenda that they feel is time sensitive. And the only reason I say it's time sensitive is because if we don't get it on their agenda tomorrow, then it waits until, I think, December, their next meeting will be December 4th.
Yeah.
Which means, I agree with Jeff, that it should start the following week, which means it wouldn't start until the 9th, so that's 2 full weeks.
That's
of
too long.
not getting-
It's half the time, basically, that the
Yeah.
market's left.
And you've lost all Thanksgiving.
And you've lost all Thanksgiving,
You
so.
lost Thanksgiving.
So what
demand.
Erica told me is that if we did vote this through with natural resources endorsement, that we should send her an email tonight stating that, and that she would get Brooke, they would put it on their agenda as a time sensitive issue. But she also wanted to make sure that there was representation from this board to discuss it with the selectmen, because they probably will have some questions. And that's it.
Sounds good to me. Is there any more discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Peter Brace?
did we hear from the fishermen that are in the audience before we do this?
Yep, we will. Yes, good. Thank you. Mr. Anderson?
My only caveat would be putting a time limit on it, so if it goes to
I think we should go
January 1st, we come
back to
back to
January
here.
1, we should go to 5 boxes, it
Right,
should be
reverse.
retroactive back. That would be my suggestion to the amendment.
Jim?
I'm gonna kind of disagree with that idea. I think if they're there to catch, keep catching them. That's my thought. It's to get less guys are going, maybe it won't really affect the price. Generally in January, there's less boats going anyway. There might be 10, 12 boats. I think if this doesn't get done soon, the limit is increased. It's kind of doesn't matter. You might as well just change it later, at January 1st, for the guys who do go the whole year. And try to catch them. If it's a 1-year product, they're gone. Can't catch them next year. And it's like, almost automatically raising the limit late in the year. Probably not a bad thing, just in general, because if they're there to catch, they catch them. If they're not, the guys aren't even going.
Right.
Doesn't matter.
I'd like to
They're
clarify
close itself.
one point too. I was always under the impression that if you didn't harvest a scallop this year, it would spat in the spring. But am I correct? You told me that an adult scallop like that, it may spat some, but very little.
If it's gone into its third year, it's on its way out,
So it really doesn't, all it does, it doesn't really contribute to
right?
the next year's crop. So again, it's like either we catch them or they die.
Yeah.
And the other day I fished Hussey Shoal and there was just beautiful looking scallops and shells on it, and I was shocked when I opened them. 1 out of every 5 was like a 3-year-old scallop that just didn't get harvested the year before. And you throw them in the barrel, they're just no good.
All right, I'm gonna refer to the public, Bruce, Evie, or Tara, I'm sorry.
Just real quick, I just wanted to comment on the 6. I think it definitely can sustain an increase to 6. But I would like to leave it at 6, going into January unless we want to come back here and change it for whatever reason.
So go J6 all season.
I would just keep it at 6 until we decide there's a change.
We can always,
But Natural Resources believes that it will not affect the fishery. It can support it. Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Beebe, please.
Yes, I had some concerns too about, going to a higher limit, and then in January, like last year in January, we saw, I was selling to Nantucket Seafoods and we were getting $20 a pound, and then it dropped right to 16. That was a real kick in the teeth. And if they do that because they feel they have, a reason to, because they're fishing more spots. And maybe I considered the idea of maybe reevaluating it in January, because I don't want to go out there and work harder for the same amount of money because of the price drop, but then again, as Bob's, commented on, we are kind of at the mercy of the people that are setting the price. But then looking back again at the low yields we're getting at 6 boxes, we're still not getting those 40-45 pound limits that we used to. So I think 6 is a good number to just let it ride for the season, and instead of like what we did in 2004, they opened up 6 boxes in March, and I fished all the way through March, and I got my limit the last day by 11 o'clock, 6 boxes. They weren't worth that much money, but that's what I was doing, so. I think the price did stay pretty steady that year. I mean, it wasn't $20, but it's what it was back. So yes, I'm in favor of the 6 box limit, but I think like you all are suggesting, time is of the essence. We talked about it, was it last year or the year before we talked about it? And by the time it came around to it, was after Christmas. It was like, that's not what we're hoping for.
Right.
We need it now.
Thank you, Bruce. Before I go to any more public, I haven't looked to the left at all. Curious if JC had his hand up. JC, if there's something you want to add to this, from your end of things? If you got your mic on,
It's on patrol.
all right. Carl,
I don't have anything to add to it.
thank you, JC.
Yeah.
Carl.
Oh,
try to
yeah,
keep it-
the 5 box limit right now, you're losing 25% of an ordinary weight. Like Bruce said, you get about 6 pounds to a box. And years ago, if we got less than 8, they thought you were a peddler, you better go move someplace else and get 8.5. So you're already down over 25%.
Yeah.
So if you get the 6 boxes, that makes up a little bit for. The biggest concern that the Shellfish Constable has had all year is mounding or whatever it is. It's not a big deal at all. So if you said 6 boxes and they can be mound up a little bit, the warden doesn't have to worry about it. He can use his talents at another place for the town, work on the town's outboard or something like that. That is the biggest concern, is to have somebody has 10 or 15 more scallops on the top of their box when the whole hive is full of them. It's crazy. So that would be a thing. That has been the whole thing this year, is somebody's got a little bit more crown, it doesn't make out to damn. It's not that we went early, it's not that we went on a cold day, it's not that we came in late, it's not like whatever. It's just, there might be a few more scallops on the top. Now, with the resource, there's places in this harbor that I have never, haven't caught scallops there in 35, 40 years. That's where they are. I mean, there's some everywhere. There's some everywhere. You draw a line right across Pockamo Point to Co2. That whole area is bigger than Tuckanut and Mattock Harbor combined right now. And there's a lot of scallops up there, a lot of scallops. When you see the diver on the second day of the season go up into Fifth Bend, where he usually is always around Third Point and getting nice scallops in Third Point, just to the west of the point, and he's up there in the second day of the season, now you know there's something up there. He wouldn't go all the way up there diving in there, so it's gonna be a lot. And we know for a fact, from Pockamo Point right to the Wall Linnet House, all you want. So I'm saying that area, all that area, there's a tremendous amount of scallops there. Now, this thing about markets and all that, well, that's a bunch of damn foolishness. Because years ago, what has happened, there's not enough volume coming in to make it worthwhile for the buyers. You know, this guy sells here, this guy sells there. One buyer gets 100 pounds one day, another one gets another one. Ted Jennison is the biggest buyer, and I really got to hand it to him. When I go out and sell my scallops like last year, he'd have these boxes to be shipped out. Some were going here, some were going there, some were going. He was finding markets. The other guys don't give a damn because it's probably not enough volume for them, and it's not their fault. They have to have volume to make it worthwhile to keep the door open. Now, like Bob said, he ships, Jim ships, this guy ships, they found market. You just gotta take a little bit of effort to find the markets. The markets are there. People are crying for them, but you just gotta go there. Now, all the ones that have opened up and they're shipping here, shipping there, shipping there, they were always there. They probably couldn't get the scallops. Jimmy had an order the other day for 100 pounds. How many times that happened? 100 pounds. You know, and I don't think you'd have to worry after the 1st of January. If you're on your toes and you put a little bit of effort to get rid of your product at a decent price, I don't think there'd be any problem getting rid of them. And the thing, if you go 6, you put a little mound on them. Don't worry about JC, then he doesn't have to worry. He doesn't even have to come down the dock.
Well, I've spent a day with JC and, well, I'll back up a little bit. I think the market's gonna work itself out. I think the fishermen have become very innovative with the market. Haven't even tapped into the Shellfish Association in assisting with that, and that's really up to you guys. On behalf of, and you know, JC and Mounding, that's up to you guys too. Every one of you fishermen could come in here and complain about JC threatening the stick. That's his job. It must mean some of you are pushing the limit too far. And I've been with him for a day and I've seen a box transfer from boat to dock and 6 scallops roll off of it because
Oh
they
my
balanced
God,
on
don't
there.
tell me 6
And-
scallops fell off.
Well, I'm
Oh
just
my
saying, the
God.
thing is
And the harbor's
heat.
full of them?
And,
Oh my
but
God.
it's his discretion and you know that. So, it's not our discretion or our place to ask the Shellfish Warden to allow overheat boxes.
Well, it's no
So,
different than you're allowing
uh,
6 boxes. Why wouldn't you say you could crown them? I mean, if you're
6
gonna go to a limit of 6,
Well, that's a whole nother discussion, Carl.
well, I mean.
If you wanna get into how the box is
Yeah.
packed, then that's another discussion.
Well, I mean, it
And
could go along with
At this
this.
point, I believe in the regulations, it's his discretion.
Right.
And anything above a level box, you know.
It's not necessarily his discretion. The regulation says a level box. It
Okay,
can be stick.
yeah,
So JC's just enforcing the regulation. It's not his discretion. I don't fault JC for doing what he's doing. He's doing his job. And if we go to 6 boxes and there's 6 level boxes, and then that's basically 5 crown boxes, so I'm fine with that too, so that's where I'm at. Well, I mean, we can agree to disagree on whether the boxes are crowned or not, but the regulation says what it is. If we wanna change the regulation to say crown boxes, we can change the regulation to say crown boxes. That's a whole nother discussion, but.
Six boxes will solve a lot of these.
Regulation change to allow the select board to
Exactly,
change the
so,
count, so let's just do one thing.
yeah,
Something like that.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right,
You guys,
We,
you want to make comments?
we made, a-
if you wish, John.
I'm in favor of the increase to 6. I appreciate Mr. Franzuto asking if that's enough. Because for the 20 people that are out there fishing, maybe 7 level boxes are an okay thing too, but let's just start with 6. And I would encourage that for the rest of the season, not revisit in January. And in previous years, if you did a 5-box limit, but you can only catch 4, you're only gonna catch 4. If it's 6-box limit, you're only gonna catch 5, you're only gonna catch 5. But
Yep.
just the opportunity to try to catch up a little bit monetarily, I know it's not the discussion for you guys, but I think more about the health of the harbor and harvesting these things, that if we don't get them now, we're not gonna get them next year. So they're there. Let the guys that wanna get them, get them.
Yep.
Any comments from, participants on Zoom?
No, oh, were there other people? I can't see them, I'm sorry.
Called me long-winded.
Mr. Anderson,
So I'd like to make a motion that we increase the limit to 6 boxes for the season.
Second,
motion's made by Mr. Anderson, seconded by Mr. Franzuto to increase, the commercial bushel limit to 6 boxes for, the remainder of the season.
Should we include that this is a time of the essence, to present it for tomorrow? For
Right.
the select board?
right, with the
I don't know if
email,
I included in the motion, but we probably
I'll
should.
modify the motion to make it 6 boxes for the balance of the season, as time is of the essence to harvest the scallops.
We'd like to get on the.
To present this to the select board, are we thinking about presenting this to the select board tomorrow?
Yes, so what would
Since
happen
tomorrow
is
is-
if we vote this motion through.
most definitely.
It would, we've heard from natural resources that the fishery can sustain this, so that should probably
Go into that.
go into that
Right.
motion that, natural
And
resources.
Mr. Carlson, I'm willing to go out on a limb and hope that, our, description on the agenda will cover this.
I'll summarize it really simply. I said my piece in writing, and you guys can certainly take action at the board's prerogative, and if someone comes back later and complains, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Again, our role at times is to make sure that we try to cross Ts and dot Is, and
And in the future, we need to.
Jeff,
dot our i's a
there's
little
been
bit.
a lot of stuff in the news lately, and we certainly don't wanna make the news, in any negative way.
yeah, again,
Peter and I, this is taken, and when we make the agenda, for each meeting, and, we will certainly discuss, more in length of how we describe our agenda items.
and some of it may be because all of us had to just sit through that open meeting law training.
Yeah,
I'm just making sure
Yeah.
that we're all good,
Mhm.
but to let you guys know too, I sent these to a separate one where I gave some examples
Mhm.
of
Mhm.
doing it to make sure we're 100% covered, because
Mhm.
the last thing we all want to hear is that 20 people roll in the door and say, it would be nice to have known that we were talking about this, because we would have had something to say.
Yeah, like what we should have done just in the future is when we discuss this at our last meeting, because we did discuss this, we should have said. We should have left the agenda item open for the next meeting and it would have covered. that
Or
whole
even
meeting.
just adding or
Yeah, and
potential.
then stated it in this minute, in this agenda that carried over from the discussion on.
Mr.
November
Chairman,
5th, but It's.
but can anybody in this room tell me? Can you think of anyone who's gonna have an issue with this?
No.
If anybody would, who would that be?
Well, I
Fisherman or buyer
I
or-
thought the same thing, Peter, and,
Somebody.
you know, let's say we postponed this for 2 weeks and who different would come in here in 2 weeks. I don't think that's up to us to judge. Let's just take this, and I mean, I think, you know, we can all project what may happen in 2 weeks, if we were to put this off, but, I don't wanna go there. I would just prefer to, we'll do our best from here on to have a more specific agenda printed up. That eliminates any question.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Franzuto.
who's gonna send the email to Erica telling them that natural resources and support, we voted hopefully unanimously, and it's a matter of critical essence? Who's gonna send that email? And who's gonna, and who's gonna attend?
I'll attend the meeting.
And I'll try to admit, I gotta run my boat to the Cape, and hopefully I can get it back before the meetings, for this agenda item comes
I'll
up.
go as not a member, I'll go if you
Yeah.
want me to speak.
Anyone can go, so.
Yeah. Yeah, public comment.
So we need to have this in form for Peter to write an email as secretary. And both of you will send it, I would assume, to Erica. But we need this motion that states the things that we wanted to state. Are you comfortable with being
Well, I
able to
mean,
write
just
that? in the
asking
minutes?
to extend. I think anyone can write it, right? I'm not
It
trying to get
just
out of
needs to
it.
say
No.
that time is of the
You can write it,
essence. And we want to get on their agenda for tomorrow night. And that we voted, once we vote, whatever the vote
So it
was.
essentially means I'm doing it tonight. I'm writing this
And it
tonight.
goes to Erica.
Well, yeah, that's what.
It goes to Erica and to Brooke.
And
It's gotta be.
So it's coming from me, or is it, I'm gonna send it to you, Andy, and you're gonna,
It probably should come from Andy as
that-
chair.
I agree, yeah.
Right.
I mean, if Bob's got us a place, if Bob DeCosta's got us a placeholder by talking to Erica, then we've, it's gotta be done tonight. This-
Right.
That was the request.
Okay.
We still haven't voted.
We haven't voted.
No.
We haven't voted,
So-
and I
so
just
the-
want to make sure we understand that we have all the pieces of the motion in there, that natural resources is assured Shab that this fishery can sustain this. And the Shab is in agreement after discussion that we raise the limit to 6. And for the remainder of the season. And it would be effective,
If the selectmen. approve
if the
it, it'll be
select board approves it, it's
selective
effective,
Next Monday.
Monday.
yeah, whatever that is.
what is the actual thing we're requesting? What is the mechanism?
Raising
Uh,
raising
The box
Commercial-
limit to
the
6.
commercial.
No, I get that, but what is the circumstance that you're describing that we're doing this?
Cause of,
No,
we're just at.
emergency, whatever, what is the
Time
request?
sensitive.
It's a time it's just right, it's a this is a time sensitive request.
Because of the holidays.
Because of the holidays
You know,
and
if
the
the
lack of-
selectmen were meeting next week, we
It
wouldn't
would
have to go through
quite
this,
so
but
critical,
because the fact that they're not meeting for 2 weeks, it kind of throws a monkey wrench into the whole thing.
And we're. Since first, and then it goes on what part of the agenda? What, under
Wherever
what?
they put it in, they'll tell you where it's. gonna
Brooke and Erica will decide where it goes on
go.
the
I don't
agenda.
know, it'll probably go on the end of the night, I would think.
And it would be effective, the 25th of March is what we're looking at, 25th of November. Is what we're looking at for it being effective if the board approves it,
25th of
November,
November, yeah, there's
not
3
March.
days, 3 days before Thanksgiving.
Next Monday.
Yeah, it'd be Monday,
I mean-
it,
I
right,
mean,
gives everybody
that's-
time
You
to.
should be back dragging dredges by then, right?
Well, I got my cane.
You get the stitches out yet?
Yeah.
Peter, you getting that?
Yeah, I get it.
Do we want to, Jeff, you're fine with this request saying that we have,
Yeah, and we'll be there. I have to be there for a different agenda item anyways, so.
But you're
Are
okay
you
with us
there as
asking about
well?
the statement
Or-
that
TBD.
the fishery supports it.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm
I'm
just
good on
wondering,
that.
in the request, I feel like it should say natural resources and our town biologist
That's fine.
agree that,
And Jeff can speak for me if we decide
Okay.
that one is enough.
not asking you to be there.
Yeah.
But I just feel you should be spelled out as well,
That's fine.
because we all know how involved you are.
Exciting day.
Yeah.
So when I send it to you, Andy, you know, it'll be essentially yours. So if you see something you don't like, you just go ahead and
Edit,
change it.
all right.
Mr. Chair, Bruce has a question.
Bruce?
Yeah, do we wanna spell out to the selectmen why we're requesting this, like saying that there's this, you know, this
That's why they wanted us
a
to do it.
massive amount of scallops set in the harbor this year for harvest
Mhm.
and a dearth of fishermen. So that we should take advantage of that and not let them die this way.
Mhm.
Can I would keep the request
Simple.
succinct and simple and have you or whoever else can be there to
Right.
elaborate
Right.
upon it, just to
Absolutely.
keep it simple.
Yeah.
Because you get that, you'll get them, if you spell it all out in the letter, then you'll get them to decide already before they come in. You want to leave a little, I guess, a little mystery in there, and then having the live voice of the person who has the experience up in front of them, you have a better shot at it, I think.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay, so we have a motion, seconded, I believe.
Yes, and the motion was made by.
I started it, but I'm not sure who finished
I
it.
think
Dave seconded
Dave
it.
seconded. it.
Okay, so a motion was made by Mr. Anderson, seconded by Mr. Franzuto. To create a letter and submit this request to the select board. With time of the essence, to increase the commercial shellfish, commercial scalloping bushel limit to 6. The remainder of the season. This request will go in tomorrow night's meeting. And take effect if approved by the select board on, everybody's looked that date up.
November 20th.
Okay, on November 25th. Any more discussion? All in favor, Mr. Anderson,
Aye.
Mr. Sherlin?
Aye.
Mr. Bossy?
Aye.
Mr. DeCosta?
Aye.
Mr. Brace?
I,
Mr. Franzuto?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well.
will be looking out for your email, and
Sorry?
check your email.
Watch your email tonight, because you
Yeah,
got
of
this
course.
tonight.
Don't go to bed
I
early.
just,
5 minutes.
Yeah, no, do you, can you, tag, in there?
I'll send it to everybody.
Erica's email?
Don't send it to all of us, cause that constantly.
Actually, Erica's email.
Just send it
popped
to
up today.
Erica and send it to Brooke.
Yeah,
Well, no, I'm gonna send it to you, and then you're gonna send it.
Yeah,
to
but he
me.
needs their email addresses.
And then just as a
Could you put
backup,
them in the body of the letter?
Send it to me.
Send it to Jeff as well as a.
As
backup.
long as somebody gets it.
He just needs their addresses, that's all.
You just need, you need Erica's address and Brooks.
I
Email.
think I have Erica's, but,
Erica was on.
And
the emails
Jeff,
I
you
sent.
have,
Yeah.
you have Jeff's, right?
yeah.
Yeah, that, you were, she.
Yeah, she was on that, yeah, she sent us a note later.
She emailed with that. What do you know about this? I was like, oh.
I'm sorry, I stepped ahead of myself yesterday, cause I figured this was gonna come up tonight, and I wanted to know if it was even feasible to get on their agenda for tomorrow.
She called with it. We can put it on there. I was like, see, make sure that people know that this is going on, so.
All right,
That's
I guess
just
that takes
a
care of
quick
that.
bureaucratic
Well,
shuffle.
Next,
Where we are.
next item on the agenda is, scallop dredge modifications. Also mentioned by Mr. Sherlin. Certainly dredges have been modified, with this sweep attachment. I'm not even quite sure what to call it. It sounds like it's more, environmentally friendly. Certainly like to hope that it is, or it probably wouldn't be being used at this point. Mr. Sherlin.
So probably a third of the fleet now is using dredges with chain sweeps versus standard bar dredges. One concern that's come up is the number of rings, the depth of the rings in the dredge. Just hanging a chain sweep is different. You have to follow the sweep of the chain up on the sides. Current regulation states 7 rings deep is the max you can have on a dredge. I think we need to put, amendment in the regulations for this. There's like, for example, the center of my dredge is 6 rings deep, the outside is 9. So I guess technically, if you wanted to go by the 7 ring deep regulation, it'd be in violation. Even though there's 1 ring less in that dredge than there would be in a standard 7 ring deep bar dredge.
I think,
Question?
no question, but I think in our regulations, when we were doing the editing, that has not gone through yet, we decided that if you're gonna have a dredge that was not listed as the traditional dredge, that you had to submit a letter of alteration to the natural resources prior to the season or whenever you changed it
Okay.
for approval. And so that'll cover,
Do we really need to go to that extreme though? Do you wanna be just looking
I
at
mean,
every
I
dredge?
think
Because
it's-
my gut is in another 5 years, the entire fleet's gonna be using these dredges. They don't sand, they don't tear the grass out, they seem to fish better.
I think that we need to look at it now. I think like there's been no studies done on anything and there's a change in how they're in the design of the dredge. So I think that's important historically to know for the fishery and to document whether it's good or bad. You know, I would like to know more about it.
Well, they have been used in pretty much every other harbor in the state, I would say, or maybe even, other states as well. I think traditionally the thicker eelgrass is the reason the bar dredge was used. And now we have a little bit less than we have in other times, so it's not as thick. I do feel like they definitely dig into the bottom less with the chain. You can't push the chain down like with a weight on the dredge.
They don't sand.
You can't push the chain down any harder than the chain weighs. So you can't push the dredge into the bottom, which I feel like is a benefit to the bottom. More than happy to take you out and
Yeah, I think.
come around with you or whatever you'd
I
like.
think we're actually gonna
Or
order
take the
some.
videos or whatever.
Well, I'd say we've been talking about getting some to go out and take a look at and. You know.
They're more
toes
bottom
and down.
friendly,
I
basically.
feel like they are.
They're more
I
bottom.
mean, I haven't studied the bottom after I towed it around, but
I don't-
what comes up, I would say it is.
Our job is
So,
to know for sure that.
That sounds great, but what happens in the meantime with to the half of the fleet that's using them? I mean,
I mean, I've been using them 6 years and nobody's said I can't.
we don't all of a sudden that these guys get told they can't use them anymore.
No, I just wanna know like how much they weigh. I wanna know, like, I didn't.
It depends how you build them. I mean, I heard that there was some issues with guys having them too heavy. I know mine are under because I made sure that was correct when I did it,
Mhm.
about 30 pounds.
The limit was 35 pounds, right?
Correct, yes.
Well, I think knowing what the design is in those weights, and I think we can figure out like weights and sizes. It just. Might take some to-do-ins to do, but I think
But I mean,
this is the perfect start of
if you
that.
get too complicated with the regulations, I mean, you can start building all sorts of different stuff that isn't even in it, like you could, they have chain bag limit, but you could use net on the bottom and nobody can say anything about that. So it doesn't have that in the regulations, or you can make a drill grate bottom or whatever you wanna make.
Well, I
You
know
get too complicated. it's
The,
gonna-
the current ones that are in, right, with the exception of the weight that we added. When the last rig update was done, I think we've been carrying around the 28 inches wide with the 7 rings deep
That's a big dredge.
Ever.
decades.
Right.
So I think anything that can be due to. Give some flexibility, but also an understanding of what's legal and what's not, and ways to quantify that better, I think. Is better for everybody.
The weight thing would definitely be an issue, if they, obviously, if someone had one that was so big that it weighed 60 pounds or 50 pounds, and it's gonna dig in a lot more than, like your smaller ones, Jimmy,
And 22, I think
I
this.
mean, most of the ones that are, I'm actually gonna have Jimmy build me some, cause I wanna try them as well, but. Most of the ones, you just took a regular frame and modified it,
Yep.
right? So
Oh,
they're
yeah.
not like, they're not like a Chatham dredge that's 3 foot across.
No, correct.
So,
I'm open to whatever. I just wanna understand them a little bit more.
especially if they're environmentally better for the grass and they don't.
Well, that's
the
the thing.
roots out.
Maybe it's something where. That turns to the norm.
Friday, I'll go Friday.
Maybe.
Okay.
Gonna blow like hell.
You're right. Yeah, pick a nice day.
Well, and maybe even in, I mean, I can only like imagine this, but to actually be diving alongside while couple of these dredges are in operation, so that you can actually see how they're operating on the bottom. I don't know if, you know, if that's something you've ever done. But you know, I can't imagine the studying could get any better than to actually watch it happen. And I've heard divers tell me,
Good amount of GoPro.
you know,
Yeah, maybe
they've
we
worked
should
very
be here
close
for
to guys dredging.
Yeah.
And,
Especially when it changes the water every day, so we
so
couldn't get it, you could.
Oh,
anyhow.
We could always mount a GoPro, but Jimmy said he's done it, so.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Oh,
I don't wanna be the curmudgeon here, but. I'm looking at JC's name up here and I'm thinking, what do we do about technically, are these dredges illegal at this point? Is this gonna become an issue for the guys that are using them? I don't wanna, how do we deal with that? Do we just say we're gonna figure this out with the new regulations? Or do we just leave everybody to let them do what they've been doing?
I'd say as long as it's not overweight, I mean, that's the biggest.
I see, if your suggestion, like, here's your chain, You take the center of the chain down. As long as not more than 6 rings from the center of the chain down to your club stick. The other ones have to be a little longer to make that sweep. So technically, you could have 7. Technically, but most of the guys want just 6. You don't need all that extra in there. So you're not having any more rings in a dredge. You're having actually less. So you measure it from the center down, that's 6 rings. This one over here might have to have 7 because the chain is going up. And up in the corner, the sea scallopers always call that the diamond. And sometimes we'd be getting really good, there's some up inside there. But it's just, the rings up there are just to, not support, but just to make the dredge work. It's like carpentry, you know, you have to have a stud and a cripple just to make the whole thing come out. So if you have the 6 from the center, simple, you know, it's basic, so basic. But you could have 7.
Call it the bag length and negate the diamond. You know, because the diamond is just.
I wonder how many,
Contour of the sweep.
I wonder if you took a 28-inch dredge with 7 rings.
Yeah.
And you counted how many rings were in it. And then you took one of these dredges and said, as long as you would have more than that number of rings in the dredge, you're good.
Yeah, but I think they're 12 wide if you go 28-inch stretch.
Huh?
I think it's 12 rings wide if it's 20.
12
I think it's
on
12.
28, so 12 times 7.
Yeah.
84 rings, as long as you don't have more than 84 rings in your sweep dredge, you're. I don't know, I'm just. I'm
It's
spitballing here.
not rocket science, no.
I know, I just don't wanna
Yeah, I
get,
know.
it's a kind of a nightmare for JC if he has to, like,
Thank you,
start
Bruce.
telling people you
Thank you,
can't
gentlemen.
use this dredge or that dredge. You know.
We're
We're gonna have guys in front of here every week.
Not 8 of them.
Yeah, most of the guys are only towing 4, so.
If you can't tell them, don't tell them, you know?
Carl.
Just back up a little bit on bushel limit and all that.
Quickly,
Yeah,
Yeah, we get it.
we're 40% below the state's 10 bushel limit. So that's the thing, you know, I mean, just as, if there's any kind of a comment about how much this is, but we're still 40%. In another area in the state, if they said you can do the state limit, which is 10 bushels per license holder. But we're hopefully getting down to 6, so we're way underneath. But that just something for argument.
yeah.
And another thing, Bob might know this, and because when I was home convalescing there, I went through a lot of reading material and all that, and I came across the rules and regulations for taking scallops family permit after 1st November. A scalloper that has held a commercial license for, I guess forever, I don't get it. It doesn't actually have to have that commercial license in his pocket. He only had to have used the commercial license. It would allow him 2 bushels of
Yeah, I have
scallops.
one, I can tell you. So you go to see
Yeah,
JC or Natural Resources. If you have been a
Yeah,
commercial scalloper in the past and you're over 60, you can get a 2 bushel limit. And you can
using
go,
dredges.
you can't go Monday or Tuesday, it's the same
Okay,
days as a
okay.
recreational. You've got to take the boxes to JC, he puts a special red tag on it, because this is. How I know this is because Saturday I went and got my 2 bushels and I threw test dredges through the harbor to see. I said, it was a nice day, I'm gonna go play around. I got my 2 bushels. And I threw probably 30 different locations through test dredges. And the smallest count I got was 10 scallops in a test dredge. It was.
And we
pretty
did
nice.
that to protect.
I never saw scallops. But yeah, anyone over 60 can get that call.
The
It was
only
held
other
as
thing
a
is-
commercial.
I was told that you had to have a state license, but that can't be true.
You do now, but when the new regulations go into place, you won't need to have the state license.
Right, the agreement was you can't sell
No, that's true.
No.
No, but I'm thinking, I mean,
When I wrote- them. When I wrote that, it was so you, old timer, could go and get a
Yeah.
couple bushels.
yeah, but I was young then.
Yeah, you were, but my point is that the agreement was they can't sell them,
Right, no.
Thanks,
Jeff,
Jeff.
thank you.
Thank you.
therefore they don't have to have a state license.
You don't have to have a state license.
Nope.
No, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to have a state
Continuing, But
license.
you gotta bring the boxes in and get the tags put in.
You
And
just
they give you another card, just like your regular.
Okay,
commercial
that's
card.
fine. I mean, that's fine. But if I wanted to take a friend with me tomorrow or whatever, whatever. And he hasn't been base scalloping for, say, the last 5 years, but he did it for, say, 20 years. He could go with me because at one point, he did have a license.
He's
Right,
gotta go
he
get
held-
that permit.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah, he can
He
get
held
these
the
2
license.
boxes and I can get my 2 boxes on a Sunday.
right,
Okay,
because
okay,
he previously held a license and
Yes.
now he's over 60.
Yes.
I'm gonna drag my mother out there with me.
I can't wait to get to be 60 and I can get an extra bushel.
I wrote that when I was 45.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it was 30 years ago.
It's
All
getting
right,
late.
so
All right.
basically this
Wrap this
is, to, what do you call it, cover our
I guess the
selves, and
the dredge
it's,
thing is TBD.
yeah, all right.
And time is the essence. That's the biggest thing for tomorrow.
Well, that's,
That's already done. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
done.
no, but I mean, that's gonna be really specified. I'll go to the meeting.
Yeah.
Should we,
all right,
should we table the last part on here for this?
yeah, we can, if everybody else, approves about the submerged.
I
boat
make a
record.
motion to move the submerged boat wreckage hazard to our next meeting.
Second.
Mr. Chairman, I have
Yes,
information on that.
From
Not
me
to
to the
belabor
next
this. I talked to the harbor master today. The boat hasn't been moved. The Marine Department will have the boat removed. It's under court order. The Marine Department will have the boat removed and the subsequent individual will eventually be charged to pay for it. But the boat is still there, but it'll be out of there as soon as the Marine Department can arrange it.
Thanks, Dave.
It's possible there are 2 there, and, she's probably aware of this. And, she'll be giving us a report at some point here. And if you're in touch with her for any updates on this, we certainly appreciate that coming through you as well, Dave, so thank you.
No, I talked to her about it this morning.
All right, thanks, Dave. We'll continue discussion on that. I don't think we need to, vote on continuing that discussion, but thank you, Bob. If there's no more discussion tonight, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made by Mr. DeCosta, seconded by Mr. Bossy to adjourn tonight's meeting. All in favor, Mr. DeCosta,
Aye.
Mr. Bossy,
Aye.
Mr. Sherlin,
Aye.
Mr. Anderson,
Aye.
Mr. Franzuto,
Aye.
Mr. Brace.
All right.
The chair votes aye as well.
I could sure use some scallops. And Carl, if you have an extra cane, I'll take the extra cane too.
Now you live on
Yeah.
Frontier, it's bad. You live on
Extra.
Oh, did you come to this one time?
Yeah.